Hello, 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 and welcome to a quick rundown of Victoria 3 Dev Diary number 168, We Cannot Be Stopped. The name of this dev diary comes from the fact that though everything in it was great content, the content was everything, everywhere, all at once. A lot of unconnected items in this dev diary, but all very good stuff. This was also just a fun dev diary. I know I always say I highly recommend you read the full dev diary, but this time I doubly, triply, one, two, carry the four. I recommend you read the dev diary. You really get to see the fun the devs have with making this game, and it's fantastic. So if you're a busy gamer on the go and don't have time to read the full dev diary, here is a quick TLDR rundown of what was discussed. As always, if you want to read the full dev diary, and I double triply recommend that you do, a link to it is in the description. Let's dive in. We get a new labor association law called factory councils, kind of the homesteading of industry. When this law is activated, half of your industries become worker-owned. However, this law is a little bit different in that you can't enact it. There was a really interesting discussion about how people have been asking for a communism-flavored labor association law. It was explained how that wouldn't really make sense. You don't seize the means of production by passing a law and having the government say, okay, now it's cool to seize the factories. So this law, factory councils, can only be enacted by certain revolutions. It wasn't specified what specific movements that revolt will enact it, but it's safe to assume the communist movement and the anarchist movement. But now you will actually have your workers rise up and very literally seize the means of production. When one of those movements starts a revolution and they win, this law will be enacted as your labor association law. You will now be able to select which ruler your country will start with. If you want to do a non-historical run, or maybe start a country with a different ruler to simulate what happens, you will now have that option. In the country selection screen, you will have this button next to your ruler. You click that and you'll get this window. It'll give you an option between three people. If you don't like the three options you were given, there is this randomize button on the top left to give you three new options. This feature will have full mod support, and you'll be able to create whatever rulers and options you like. You'll get this warning before you continue that all historical content for the ruler you're replacing will be deactivated for your run. It was also noted that in order to use this feature, you have to have the fantastical content game rule enabled. This option is enabled by default, but if you have disabled it in the past, you'll have to enable it again in order to use this new feature. I've got some good news and some bad news. We're getting new content for Africa. The bad news is they've gotten rid of my beloved Transvaal. It's okay, it's still a formable country. We're getting content for South Africa. There was some great historical context given for this change. The short of it is the Boers didn't actually have control over regions of South Africa by 1836, as the Great Trek had just started. Now each country in South Africa will start with this event, though the goal will be different based on the country you play as. If you play as the Cape Colony, your goal will be to gain control of all the lands in the South Africa region. While doing so, you'll have the option to add another primary culture that fits your population. If you make the Boers a primary culture, you'll have to change your citizenship law to match the most exclusionary law active in any Boer country. If you want to make the Griqua a primary culture, you'll have to become less exclusionary and increase the acceptance of the Griqua before you can make them a fellow primary culture. If you play as any of the other countries in the South Africa region, your goal will be to remain independent, become recognized, oh yeah, you now start as unrecognized, and have access to the sea. You'll have the option to confederate with some of your neighbors in order to mount a defense against the Cape Colony expansion. They went over a bunch of map changes. Here we see Spain starts with the Carlist Revolt. Along with that, Gibraltar, Ceuta, and Melilla are smaller. There's been some changes to the Spanish states. Valencia has been split into Valencia and Murcia. Cantabria has been given to Castile, and Leon has become its own state. In Portugal, the state borders have been shifted and a new state has been created. And lastly, Alrif's borders have been shifted. Asturleonese and Aragonese have been added to Iberia and their population numbers reworked. The Sahara has been split into more decentralized states. Along with that, the British settlements of Gabon, Sierra Leone, the Gold Coast, and Fernando Po are all now part of the colony of British West Africa. The cultures of North Africa have been reworked. The Philippines map has been reworked, which we saw in a previous dev diary. The states of South Africa have changed, which we discussed earlier, but also the Portuguese colonies start with different borders. Cuba now has multiple states, three to be exact: West, Central, and Eastern Cuba. Hubs have changed in the Greater and Lesser Antilles. Now, Port-au-Prince, Santo Domingo, and San Juan are the capitals of their respective states. We now get the emergence of the Dutch West Indies, the addition of some new state traits, and lastly, a rework of sugar and wine production. Sugar production will be centralized in Spain, Britain, Brazil, and the United States. And here's the new wine production map. It'll be concentrated in Europe, with southern France, Italy, and Spain getting the bulk of it, with wine production in the United States and Russia getting nerfed. And to end the dev diary, something just for the sheer fun of it. You'll now be able to add text as articles in a treaty. These don't have any mechanical value, they won't affect anything in the game, they're just there to have fun, maybe add your own flavor, and possibly troll in multiplayer. And by troll, I mean say very nice things that are complimentary to your fellow Victorian. Since this is the last dev diary with narrative content, they gave us a bibliography for all the sources they used for this update and DLC. For all of you wondering, wait, Cuba was a Spanish colony? Now you can read all about why. On Thursday, we'll get the artwork dev diary, always a very fun one to browse through right before the release of the update, which by the way comes on December 11th. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like and the channel a subscribe. A very special thank you to the channel members. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support as you help to keep things going. That's it for now. As always, be awesome.